spirit don't change, only rearrange. From death birth, one nature, one earth. We've been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we here to stay. AmeRican, free and awake. In and down, in and down, in and down. We've been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we here to stay. AmeRican, free and awake. Ancestral dreams help us survive. Like rivers and streams keep Great Lakes alive. In nature we trust, 'cause nature is us. From death to birth, one nature, one earth. Been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we here to stay. AmeRican, free and awake. In and down, in and down, in and down. We've been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we here to stay. AmeRican, free and awake. Here to stay. Back to nature. Time for us to heal. Time for us to rise. Time for us to feel. We're living more than life. Time to face our fear. Time to give up grief. Time to make it clear. AmeRican, still here. We've been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we're here to stay. AmeRican, free awake. In and down, in and down, in and down. We've been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we're here to stay. AmeRican, free awake. Stay. Back to nature. AmeRican, free and awakening, coming on back to nature. AmeRican, free and awakening, coming on back to nature. We've been found, lost and found in the USA. We've been up and down, but we're here today. AmeRican, free and awakening, coming on back to nature. AmeRican.
Welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't African, the talk show that shows without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America stuck in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, Buck Wylam, and tonight we're going to welcome back Miss Trena Armstrong, ex-Afrocentric teacher at the historically black colleges and universities. She's going to be sharing with us her experiences there and why she walked away from that. Now, in the so-called African American community, to have a job is something that she's going to get into, and how we look at it and how we feel about it. But you're in for a very, very enlightening experience tonight. If you notice, the call-in number has changed. The old line we had just couldn't hold. It was just too many people online, and I thank the people for tuning up for that. So we went to another number. So when you want to call in to African Americans Ain't African, and bear with me because I have to get used to this number, it's area code 605-562-3140. That's 605-562-3140, and the participation code is 240670#. That's if you want to ask a question or if you have something you want to share with the group that can make the group be progressive. AmeRicans, we got to be progressive. We got to pay attention to what Mother Nature is telling us. We have to tune into it, and we have to know what to do when Mother Nature is calling for her children. Our podcasts are always available Always available. You can go to my website, AfricanAmericans.org, and we have African American Ain't African Radio. Check us out. All the shows are on there. You can go back to when we first started. Pick out a show. We talk about some pretty nice subjects. And basically what we're trying to do here at African American is to raise communication, raise knowing levels, raise why we're here, and start looking at ourselves as parts of the earth instead of the things that we've been taught that we are. Podcasts can also be heard on Black Talk Radio Network. Scotty Reed and the people over at Black Talk Radio Network really doing some good things for the community to bring communications to the communities. Also, we can be reached at Facebook on African Americans Ain't African in the chat room there. And the cool part about that is people are sharing pictures, people are sharing photographs of family, and people are sharing a whole bunch of stuff. The cat's out the bag, people. The cat's out the bag. African Americans ain't Africans. They're AmeRicans. Welcome back, Trena Armstrong.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back. And I wanted to just say, just right off the top, that I really appreciate you providing this forum, because it's just really important for us to, I know it's important for me to get this information because, as you said, I was really into the Afrocentric movement. So, I really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me back.
So, Trena, what is the Afrocentric movement? What purpose does it serve?
Well, I think that initially it was a way of empowerment, causing people to feel empowered and have pride, learning an African history, specifically the Kemetic, especially the Kemetic history. We've all heard, we came from kings and queens and, and that sort of thing. So I think the real purpose, was to empower people. And then as things progressed, I think people start looking at it like, well, this is our hidden history. This is history that wasn't taught to us, and just a way, because we have been classified and have accepted that classification of African American, and so that movement has progressed, and it's big business now.
Yes, it's a huge business. Before we got on, we were listening to Bobby Wright. And Bobby Wright, that was the last piece that we had on Bobby Wright for Menticide. And one of the things he talked about, and I want to ask you because I wanted to talk about it. This is what I wanted to talk about when we first came on is, have we accepted our fate? And I'd like to get your thoughts on that, because you've been around a lot of youth. Being a college professor, you've seen a lot of people from different backgrounds come through. Have we accepted our fate?
Yes, hook, line, and sinker. We've embraced it, and the really sad part is we embraced it without doing any research on the people who were here.
Now, one of the things in the education field, did you ever wonder, you hear about the history of China, the Ming dynasty, you hear about the history of Greece, you hear about the history of Egypt. All these places are halfway around the world. But you never hear the story of the people here. Did that ever come across you in your studies and as you were developing?
It did. Like initially, of course, I had bought into, the whole Afrocentric paradigm. So I didn't really look at that. We're not taught to look at that. We're not even taught really to even think critically, and to fully examine things the way that we should. We're not even trained. We're not trained to do that. So initially, I didn't look at any of that. But as time progressed, as things went on, and I was doing research and was reading things, all these questions started coming up, in my mind. Like, wait a minute, hold up. How is this really possible to transport all of these millions of people over here to this land that they called America? How were they able to do that?
I can't believe. I mean, so I want to sit and reason with you.
Okay.
I don't want to argue. Let's just sit and have a chat. Your question, the question that you just asked, how did that happen? So when you begin to ask yourself that question, what kind of answers were you getting?
Well, I started looking for evidence because no one could really give me any answers other than, that same rhetoric that we've been taught. They brought them over here on ships and they piled them in and they show you the diagrams of the ships and how the people were back then and all that. So my thing was, okay, where did they get all the timber, all the lumber to make those? And most importantly, where are those ships now? Shouldn't there be some of those ships still remaining, even if they're, just remnants or, just pieces of various parts of the ships? But shouldn't there be some? And I haven't found any.
Well, I've been to a few places, not many, but when you go places, they have remnants of boats and clothes from 10,000 years ago and pieces of a boot, and these are from thousands of years ago. And when you say like pieces of a ship, how the European does it, he likes to show his conquest. He loves to show that he has you under his paws. He loves to show that. No pieces of it.
Yeah,
None.
nothing. There's
So,
nothing.
and one of the things that I try to do is I try to ask brothers, okay, well, give me, at least meet me on that. And the fireworks start. I want to know, Trena, why when we're asked to press on something, if you're saying this happened, and we're saying the question, well, why isn't there no evidence? With me, normally I get brothers that just shut down and don't want to talk, or they want to argue, but they can't. But they're not proving the point. What do you do in that situation?
Well, I just keep asking them and trying to find out from them, or try to help them see that you've been, for lack of a better word, you've been programmed. You've been programmed. We've bought into this. We've taken this on, this history. We've taken this on as ours. We were told it was ours. But what positive things have conquerors ever given a people? So why would you think they would give you a true knowledge of your history?
Right.
They haven't given you anything that has been helpful to you. Everything has been detrimental. From the religion to
right.
It's all been detrimental. So why do you continue to just take their word? And it's because that's how we've been programmed. That's how we've been taught.
Well, give us a little bit of background about yourself and tell us how you got into the education field.
Yeah, I've come from a line of educators, and I was a rebellious kind of kid. So I said, I'm not going to be a teacher. My mother and stepfather, my grandparents, I have aunts and uncles. They were all educators for years. And so I went into various different types of work. I worked for Congress for 8 years. I was living in the D.C. area and worked on Capitol Hill. I've worked in corporate America, nonprofits, and was just dissatisfied with each and every one of them, really. And so I decided to go back to school to get my bachelor's, and I ended up majoring in Africana Studies because it seemed to I was looking for answers, and so I thought that these were my answers. This is where I belong. This is my history. And so once I got my bachelor's, I was encouraged to continue on, and so I did, and I got my master's in Pan-African Studies. And so once I finished school and was offered the job to teach at the university, I was teaching African American Studies, and I did that for 2 years. And I initially was enjoying it. The students were very receptive. My classes became quite popular. I had waiting lists for my classes. But about 2 months before the semester had ended, I had started doing research on my own, along with a cousin of mine who, at the time, I didn't know. She was doing our family genealogy. And I just started asking all these questions, like I said, about the ships and about why so many people who were Black Power revolutionists back in the 60s and 70s are now in positions of prestige and power.
Now, when you thought,
at university.
Let me ask you this. Now, when you thought that, when that became a reality to you, because I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you answered that question. What did that make? How did you feel?
Well, I felt that, first of all, I was looking at it because I thought, okay, we're being miseducated, and this miseducation is supported by the system in which we live in. So these are revolutionaries, these Black Power advocates are working in the system, and that just didn't sit right with me. I just couldn't understand, how you could spend time in jail for civil rights and march and have all these demonstrations and do all this, but now you're a congressman or now you're a university professor. It just it just
Right.
didn't jive,
Yes.
Yeah. So so what I did is I just went in one day. I could not continue to stand in front of those students and discuss and support this African American history, this information. I just could not do it. My conscience wouldn't let me do it. I was getting away. I couldn't even sleep at night. And so I just went in and resigned. I walked away. And I haven't looked back.
So you said you couldn't sleep at night. Why was that?
Because I didn't feel comfortable in standing in front of students and trying to teach them some information that I was questioning myself.
You know what that's called, right? That's called a conscious resolve.
Yeah. I just couldn't do it.
Yes, that's interesting because so in making that decision, how has life changed for you?
It has changed dramatically. I relocated. I have a sister that lives out west. And I told her, I said, I've resigned. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she's like, come on out here. You probably just need to get away, get a break. I ended up going back to a field that I did, that I was working in while I was in school, because I was going to school full-time and working full-time as a substance abuse counselor. So right now I'm doing that part-time, working at a women's residential center. So I'm working with women, which is something that I enjoy doing, who are recovering from substance abuse. I don't have a car. Like I said, I'm living with my sister, and currently even getting, some assistance.
Well,
unfortunately, having to do that, but I'm sleeping better. And I have more time to do research for myself. And
and for the and,
things are going to even get better. I know that they are, because I feel in my heart that I did the right thing.
well, I think you did do the right thing, and they are going to get better. And I think with whatever you know, once you get into the history of your people, once you know who they are and where you come from, I think it'll give you a little bit more clarity on what you're supposed to be doing. And I think that was the
Mhm.
purpose of teaching us that we're African, so we would never connect here. Because what your people did back in the 1800s, they probably come from a long line of people who was doing that for thousands of years. And we
Mhm.
have this energy in us, and I think it's that energy. I think that energy is
Mhm.
just focused away from us.
Mhm. I think you're absolutely right, and I'm learning that as I'm researching my family. Because for instance, that photo that I sent you of my his four greats grandfather and his wife. I mean, this man, no education, and he had property, and he just continued to work, and he was a farmer, and he ended up with, I don't know how many acres he ended up with, but he had 10 sons, and he gave each son 50 acres. Um,
Now, let me ask you a
so
question. Let me ask you a question,
yeah.
Trina, because this kind of
Hmm.
goes hands in hand. You said he didn't
Hmm.
have any education.
No, we can't find any record of him having any education at all, and yeah.
So would you say, coming from the education field, would you say that that may be the way to go?
Yeah.
Because
And
education is
mhm,
pumped so hard in America, but it's whack.
it is.
It's horrible.
It's very whack.
And that we have to send our children to it with a straight face. That's that conscious resolve that's not getting, we doing the wrong, we know it's the wrong thing, but we do it anyway.
Hmm. And it's so whack that you have college students. I mean, I had tons of them who, even at that level, I mean, they were reading at like a fifth or sixth grade level. Um, they couldn't really comprehend anything, and even some of those were who read well, they couldn't even tell you what they had read once they finished. So I had to get creative and try teaching in other ways. Giving oral exams instead of having them take written tests. Making it a seminar. Where we just sit around in a circle and talk and discuss the material. Because they had learning disabilities, and they weren't prepared. They weren't prepared. So
So let's say a kid come out of a school. Now help me understand this. You have, can you hear me?
yes. Hmm.
Okay. You have kids coming out of inner city schools. I'm not coming out of Los Angeles. So a regular inner city high school, what would be that child's, uh, when he got to college? Are you saying that they would be reading on a fifth or sixth grade level?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay. What about the
Yeah.
kid that goes to a charter school or another one of these? They got all in these school systems. They have all kind of shams that this school is
Hmm.
better. This school is better. It's really just teaching you to be another kind of dummy. So when they get to
Hmm.
college, are those same kind of students? Are they still missed at that same fifth and sixth grade reading
They're,
level?
they're still miseducated, because here's one thing that they're not being taught how to sustain themselves. They are taught to be workers. They're taught to get out, get this degree, and get out and work for somebody else and make them rich. They're not taught any type of skills that they can, um, develop for themselves, develop some type of companies, businesses for themselves. I'll tell you this even. The school where I was teaching, and I kind of got in a little trouble about this, But their motto, even to this day, their motto is think, work, and serve. That's their motto: think, work, and serve.
And what
So,
school? And what school is this? Hold up! No way!
yes, yes,
Oh,
you can look it
wait!
up.
What's the name of the
You can look it
university?
up. Tennessee State University. It's in Nashville, Tennessee, home of the Tigers. Their
Trina.
motto is think, work, and serve. So listen, I was giving a presentation. This was, I don't know, 2007 or 6 or something. But the president at that time, he's not the current president, but the president at that time was there. We had invited him to this presentation. So after it was over, he came up and, oh, you did a wonderful job, sister, and da 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 da. And I said, Doc, I said, we need to make an appointment because I don't want to talk to you about maybe us changing the slogan of the school. And he was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, I think we have worked long enough serving others. I think we need to learn how to start serving and working for ourselves. And he just blew up. Oh my goodness, he's just like, how dare you? This has been our motto since 1912, since the school's been here. And it's just, but that's the mentality: think, work, and serve. And so we're sending our kids to school so that they can learn how to think, work, and serve others.
And being that you said the president, of the university,
mm-hmm.
he said it, so that just lets you know everybody that's coming to pass through his gates got to serve.
Yeah.
I did a graduation. I filmed a graduation a couple of years ago at one of the schools at FAMU,
mm-hmm.
down in Florida.
Yeah.
And to me, college campuses, they're like laboratories to me, and they're just
mm-hmm.
experimenting on. That's what it is to me. And I'm at this
mm-hmm.
graduation down in Florida, and so they stand up. When they're about to start the program, how you have to stand up for the national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done that.
Couldn't do it.
I just, I went to Wattstax in L.A. That was my first concert ever. Wattstax in Los Angeles. If you can see the DVD, see it. Excellent concert. Stadium full of brothers, and everybody was on a positive vibe. It was real cool. And that's the energy that we have working through us. That's the energy that we have amongst us. If this energy that we have, if we can use it for something that's beneficial to us and the planet,
mm-hmm.
man.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, these universities, they take it away from there. Anyway, they do the
mm-hmm.
they do the anthem, and so normally it used to be like this, that when they finish with the national anthem, they would play the Negro national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard that before, right?
I remember that.
Okay,
yes.
so I stand up. Everybody's sitting down, and I stand up, getting ready for, because I grew up on that. It's a cool little song too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Man, they start talking about the guy that was coming from Africa coming to make a something. I'm like, you got an African cat? All the great people in this community on this part of the earth that have done work, and you going to Africa to get somebody?
Mm-hmm.
For real, cuz?
Yeah.
For real? So that's how it is. So but we do have an awakening of youth, a lot of youth, and it's probably to you once you get into your story. Some youths are saying, "Man, I can't do it."
Yeah.
Because the kids coming out of school that are just not going, I understand what they're talking about. It's horrible. It's horrible.
It really is. Yeah.
And like you said, they don't teach these kids nothing about themselves, so why do we keep sending them? How do we say we love our children?
Because we bought into this culture, this consumerism and materialism, and it's all about getting that piece of paper so they can go out and get a good, what my dad used to say back in the day, go get one of them good government jobs, so that you can buy stuff. And work hard to try to keep that stuff. So
that's where the life energy. That's where the life energy of the so-called African American is going, working to buy stuff that other people sell them.
Hmm. Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. There was a report, and I think that it still holds true even now, that the so-called African Americans are the largest consumers.
Yeah, I've read that several
Yeah,
times. I read it several
yeah.
times.
So
Um,
we were running out to the to the malls and stuff, and standing in lines to get the latest sneakers, um, and making
so
the least amount of money.
so when your students were coming in from these schools and you were getting them, were they receptive to what you were teaching them?
Most of them were. Um, most of them were, because a lot of them had already heard about my classes, and so they wanted to know more about their African American history. So they were pretty receptive.
What
Some even said, giving them pride in themselves, and you know.
you know what cracks me up when the people go over to Africa and be crying at the the castles and stuff.
Oh
You ever
yeah.
see, I'm
Mhm.
like, man, I bet a lot of the colonizers be looking at us like, wow,
Mhm.
wow. And I think that's the power of belief that we have. And Stevie Wonder said it best: when you believe in things you don't understand, you suffer. And as a
Mhm.
group of people, I don't just look at it from my point of view. I look at it, everybody's a part of me. And I saw a lady. I was near a lady last week whose son was killed, and nothing was done about it. And the energy that is coming off of her is outrageous. And she said it. She said one of the things, she said, we have to stop bullshitting our children. We
Mhm.
have to stop, because they're wonderful. They ready and eager to do stuff, but we fill them up with all this garbage,
Mhm.
and it just shorts them out. I mean, I'm seeing children today, 13 years old, intelligent. They
Oh
don't.
yes.
They can't step
Mhm.
into school because they know it's eating them up.
Yeah, and their intelligence gets stifled. It gets smothered. It gets extinguished. Um, they're very creative and very bright and energetic, and then labels get put on them.
Yes.
He's ADHD, and all that kind of stuff. And the labels get put on them. The medication gets into, it's just,
Now, when you
uh,
when you when, now when you walked away from all
hmm
that, because you're a university professor, and university professors from where I come from, they're the they living good. They eating out every Friday, going for drinks, got a mortgage payment, got a Mercedes Benz, just parked in the garage, a BMW, just in the driveway, balling.
hmm
How did you walk away from all that?
Well, it wasn't that hard. It really wasn't hard because I made up my mind. I just can't do it anymore. I
So do
mean,
you,
it's making me physically sick. I couldn't do it. Now, I've never really been a flashy, I didn't have the huge house and the Mercedes and that kind of thing because that's just not my style. But it wasn't difficult. It was difficult for those around me. I had family and friends going, "Oh my God, she's lost her mind. What's going on? What's wrong with her? Go back. They'll take you back. What's you know?" Um, and I have some that were supportive. I have a few, but the majority of people were like, "Oh gosh, what? Why would you do that?"
but
but,
but your but your sister came through for you.
yes, yeah. She said, "I understand. Come on out here and chill out, and you'll find with your background, you'll find something else." Um, And I have, like I said, I am working part time, but that's not my ideal, you know,
Right.
situation. I would really like to be working for myself and doing something to raise this consciousness for AmeRicans.
Well, you're in
Because
California.
yeah,
You're
so
in
mhm
California. You're in California.
mhm
So you're gonna run. You can do well out there. You can do
mhm
well out there. It's you just got to put the energy into it, and it'll come out. You'll be fine out there. Um, so when you walked away from all this, you were doing genealogy. You got into genealogy.
yes, I did. And like I said earlier, I didn't know at the time, but I have a cousin who was also working on our family genealogy. So she has really helped open my eyes to a lot of things as well. How this culture has just been swept under the rug um, and replaced. Our culture was replaced. Our identities were replaced with this African American identity. And just recently, just last night, she sent me a picture that she finally was able to get a hold of a great, great, great aunt of ours who was known throughout the community. She and her family, they were known to be Cherokees. So that just blew me away. That just helped solidify, what has been resonating in me. But I just never knew for sure, you know,
Yes.
and so that's really helped
One of the
inspire me to keep going.
one of
Hmm
the things that you can do with the Cherokee is you're up there in Tennessee. If you look at maps of if you look at maps, old maps, and maps can be helpful when you're doing a genealogy search. When you're looking up maps, you'll notice that you don't see the name Cherokee across Tennessee. You see the name Cherokee.
hmm
It's spelled Chara,
Yeah,
Charokee. And a lot of times when things like that are changed,
hmm
they're changing the people.
yes,
They're writing the people out of
hmm
history. You know.
hmm
No, we
yes.
haven't
I
heard.
noticed that on yeah, I noticed that on census records too.
Right. So
You
you
know,
so you
one year when they do the census, it's Indian, and then the next time they do the census, they're colored
right.
or Negro. Yeah.
Right. So that's one of the things I think in doing a genealogy search, it'll start to help.
hmm
You in your search. So your great 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 grandmother was a property owner.
Yes, she was. And that was another one of those questions, besides the so-called slave ships. That was another question because as I kept seeking, I was finding these family members who were property owners in the mid 1700s, late 1700s, early 1800s. And I'm like, okay, how could they have been slaves and own property?
Wow.
It's just,
So what did you? So when
wrapping
you
my brain
learned that?
around
So
that.
when you learned that, what did you do? Were you stunned? What?
Oh, I was shocked. I was shocked. I was calling family members. Did you know ain't so and so? Was a property owner. Did you know that your grandmother's great grandmother was a property owner? Just yeah, I just couldn't believe.
So
I
what
was
kind of
shocked.
response? What kind of response did you get from the family?
Um, for the most part, just nonchalant. Just oh really? Oh, that's cool. you know, yeah,
What?
uh,
Wow.
yeah,
So
yeah. My
so
daughter was real excited about it, and she asked the same thing I did. She said, "Wait a minute, in what year?" And I said, "I'm looking at mid 1700s." She was like, "Well, because she had been a slave." I said, "Evidently, she wasn't. If she owned property,
right.
you know."
She couldn't own property if she
So
was in the. I mean, she couldn't own property if she was in somebody else's field.
right.
See,
Yeah.
this is what I'm thinking. The Afrocentric community, the Moorish community, the Hebrew Israelite community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, all
Mhm.
these different subsets that we break ourselves down in. We put ourselves in these boxes and bypass everything that you just said.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we're standing right on it because how your family acted when you told them that. It's like you burst a bubble, but it was that's great news.
Mhm. I thought it was.
That's that baptizing Holy Ghost type of news. Like what?
Mhm. Exactly.
And so, would you say
Yeah.
would you say that's how strong the education is? Is that we will walk away and turn our backs on those facts, walk away from
Yeah. Oh
truth,
yeah.
walk away from who
Mhm.
we are, just so we can be a myth?
Oh yeah. Definitely. Because we bought in. You know, we bought into to what we were taught, and we've bought into the whole culture, the individualism. You know, instead of communal, working together, um, not looking at differences, shades of color differences and all that kind of nonsense.
Yes.
Um, yeah, we've bought into all of that, and you know,
So your
the
grandmother that
individual. I got mine. I'm
yeah.
sorry. What you say?
No, you I was listening. Thought you were pausing for a minute, but you were talking about the individual mindset that we have.
Oh yeah.
What does that do to us?
Oh, goodness, it's very detrimental. It makes us look at each other as different, or it gives us we have this attitude. I got mine, you get yours the best way you can. That dog eat dog, type of mentality. You know, what I heard somebody years ago, they used the analogy of the crabs in the bucket kind of mentality. You know, pulling
Yeah.
each other down, and not we're not supportive. This is what it does. It keeps the money generating in other communities instead of our own.
Yes.
That Tennessee State University area is a good example. There's maybe two so-called black-owned businesses there, and both of those are soul food restaurants. Oh no, there's three. There's three because there is a brother there that has a bookstore. It's been there about 30 years. I think it's the only so-called black-owned bookstore in Nashville. But and other people, Arabs and all types of other people have moved into that area and opened up businesses, and we support them. We
So do,
support them. There's a gas station. I was just going to say there's a gas station that's right near the campus that's that's owned by a North African, I'll say, because I'm not sure what he is. And I went in there one day and I said, look, dude, you are not. How are you contributing to the community? I don't see any people that look like me that work here. Are you contributing to, the campus or the little league organizations that are in this community, or are you contributing anything? He's like, no, and I don't have to. He said, as long as I keep my doors open, I'm gonna get you all the money. And he's right.
wow.
He's right.
Yeah, man. I mean, and
Yeah.
that's in every community. And I'm like, so do you think that teaching us that we're all these different groups, that we're Hebrew Israelites, that we're Muslims, that we're Africans, do you think that this helps mentally steer us in that direction? Because I mean,
Seriously.
because those type people, you never see them in your businesses. Those soul food
Oh
restaurants, you
yeah.
never see them Arabs come in there.
Oh no.
But
Mm-mm. They spend their money with people that look like them.
right, and we refuse.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We have one. There's one uh, black-owned pharmacy in Nashville. Been there for years, since probably before I was even born. And he gets very little business. I think the majority of the business he gets is only because he sells like Ticketmaster, concert tickets and that kind of thing. And I mentioned that to my students, and they were like, well, I've been in there, but this stuff is so expensive. And I said, well, he sells less than Rite Aid or CVS, But
Right.
if enough of us started going, there and giving them business, then
Right.
he could reduce his prices. But, we're not trying to do that. We're not trying to do business with people that look like us.
Area code
Mhm.
605-562-3140. The participation code is 240670 here at African Americans Ain't African Radio. Trina, what are we going to do?
Well, that's a good question. I think that what you're doing is awesome, and I think that it's needed, it's vital, and that's educating us on what has systematically been done to us and how we can start empowering ourselves. And the first way to empower it is to first know your identity, to know who you really are, and not who you were told you are. I think that's the first thing. I would think that learning how to be self-sustaining, instead of going to these other businesses and giving them our money to have our own businesses. I'll give you a really good example that's happened in Nashville over the past several years. There's a main road there called Nolensville Road. And if you drive down Nolensville Road, you will find at least 6 or 7, if not more, Hispanic or Latino-owned grocery stores. You will find that many clothing stores, Latino-owned. They have their own cab company. And about 3 years ago, they started their own bus service. It's like a Greyhound, but it's a Hispanic-owned service, and it makes trips back and forth to Texas and Arizona and Mexico and the destinations, I guess, that are most prevalent for them. They have
Trina,
car lots, you know,
Trina,
you know.
with all this education that we have, with all of the resources that we have, I'm here in the South now, and Mexicans are putting up grocery stores.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
how it now? This is just my thought. This is how I'm seeing it. We're in the agricultural South, and
Mhm.
I'm new here to the South, and the space here is ridiculous.
It's beautiful too, isn't it?
Is ridiculous.
Mhm.
All the space here, and we're not as a group. I don't none of the organizations I know. All the organizations I know are trying to get money from the government, trying to get recognized from the government. We are not
Mhm.
doing. Other foreigners are doing what they, and we're not doing it. That doesn't look too good for the home team.
Mhm.
So what I want to ask you is the education. How is this what the education is doing to us? We're getting educated to just die
Mhm.
because
Yes.
we don't use our life energy. We don't use what we have to what the Creator is giving us or whoever where we get this to live. We are not using that energy for the betterment of ourselves. We're using it for the betterment of other people. And you were saying something earlier about how we feel bad.
Mhm.
You were saying
Yeah.
you were saying we feel bad because we can't find a place to work.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had a friend that called a couple of months ago, and I was looking for a job. She was looking for a job, and she said, I'm just getting so depressed. And I said, wait a minute, hold up. I said, you're getting depressed because you can't find a place that would allow you to work for them and you help them get rich or richer. And she said, wow, wait a minute, I hadn't even really looked at it like that. And I'm like, yeah, you're stressing over not being able to find a place to be a slave. She's an elementary school teacher. I said, open up your own daycare. Open up, start with the daycare. Open up your own daycare. And you can make it the way you want, a holistic, environment for children where you can start teaching them from a very young age, because that's really when we need to get them.
Yes.
At a very young age, because even in pre-K, they're already learning some nonsense.
Right.
Yeah, I noticed that when my granddaughter started pre-K, and she's reciting all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, goodness. And the fairy tales, because like you had said earlier about stories, they're real big. This culture is real big in giving you a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, earlier you were saying...
Mm-hmm.
No, go ahead, Trena. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying she's going to look into it. She's doing some work now to get that started.
See?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
And I think the way you said it to her, that's the kind of education we need. Just say it straight like that. And she's like, I never even thought of it like that. And so would you say the education that we get or are getting is to stifle our critical thinking skills?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. And to stifle your creativity. They don't no creativity. Just sit in class, soak up what I'm telling you, so you can regurgitate that on the test and keep it moving. And you can get out and get a job and work for somebody else and work yourself to death for 30 years or whatever, and hopefully get some smidgen of retirement or something that you may not be able to enjoy because you worn your body down. So, from working with them, I've seen that happen to my family members. By the time they get ready to retire, they can't really do anything. They worn themselves out.
Yes, I see that. I see that all day, every day. Every day.
And some of in my classes, I would ask the coach, I said, forget about your major. I don't want to know what your major is unless it's your passion. But that's what I want to know. What is your passion? And I said, one girl, she's like, well, my dad's making me major in engineering, but I really want to be a dancer, or I really want to be an artist, or, And I had a young man in there, and he wants to be a fashion designer. And so he was about to graduate, and he said, I'm putting in all these applications. I need a recommendation letter from you so I can send to this school, or send to this company, and maybe they'll hire me as an apprentice or something. And I said, what about opening up your own shop? Make your own clothes. He's like, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. And I'm like, yeah. Work, work for yourself.
So I think that's the kind of education that we should be getting. I think that's the kind of education.
Find out what these young people's passion. What is their passion? What is it that they really want to do? What are they really interested in?
Yes. Now, earlier you said you used to work in Congress. Tell us about that.
Yes, I did. I started working for a congressman in, I believe it was 88. It was when Bill Clinton was inaugurated as president. I was there for the inauguration, actually. And I went there. I was very idealistic, wow, I'm getting ready to go up here and, where the real power moves are happening, and I'm going to get to see how things become law and all this. And I had to resign. I was there 2 terms. I was there 8 years. But I had to walk away from that. It was, the corruption, the backhanded, the drug use, the alcoholism, all of those things that I witnessed seeing our congressmen and senators engage in was just disheartening. And the manipulation. Companies will come in, say the tobacco company, and they want a law to be a certain way, so they'll offer a congressperson, look, we'll put how many kids you got? We'll put them through college if you vote this certain way. You want a trip? Have you taken your wife on a trip lately? Yeah, we'll all expenses paid wherever you want to go. We just need you to vote this way. I was witnessing all kinds of madness.
So that's how it goes.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so we wonder why. So that's why, like I say, Doctor, the song that you heard open up the show, Awaken, man, because I think that the energy that we waste, if that could be transformed for our use, I can't see what can't be done.
I agree with you. And there's such bright children out there, bright young people.
Yes, they are.
Out there, very, very creative and have all types of ideas. And
now, do you miss that, being away from the youth like that?
I do. And I have a few of them that call and check in every now and then and let me know what they're doing. They're trying to do different things in the community to enlighten people. But I do miss that energy that they have, being around that. Because I would learn things from them too, because I'm coming from a whole different generation, and so I want to see what they, what do you think about this? And we would apply different concepts to what's going on now, just so that they could relate and feel a part of. Because that's the other thing. A lot of youth, they feel really disassociated from all of these other things, the civil rights movement and integration and all that, because they're brought up in integrated environments.
Yes.
They don't know any other thing. So they have different perspectives. So,
and what are those? What are those perspectives? What are those perspectives that they have?
Well, a lot of them have bought into interracial relationships. We're all just people.
For real?
Oh yeah. Oh, please. Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
But isn't that the programming? And since we think like that, we don't mind giving all our business to other people. We don't mind.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't believe like education. This is what I can't believe. I can't believe that the so-called African American community haven't trained their daughters to take, and sons, to take the pedicure business away from the Asians. That should be a national. Wendy Williams, all Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, all these people that is supposed to care. All the black college university professors, really.
Listen, I did a class. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I did a class. I had this course called African American Female Identity, and I had a whole curriculum just on black hair. And you talking about some heated discussions, because when I started talking about natural hair versus weaves and all that other European and Indian hair and all that, that kind of thing, they would just blow up, defending why they feel like they have to have the European look.
So what is that year? So coming from that paradigm, what is that like when you're always focused on what your hair look like? Is that the time you should be changing your mind instead of changing your hairstyle, or what is that whole dilemma with the hair?
Well, look at our culture again. It's all about the appearances. especially with the females. You
Yeah,
know,
but
and the structure of, you know, the epitome of beauty, you
yeah,
know, in mainstream is not, you know, is the European look. That's the epitome of beauty.
so that's
So
where we
you're
want to
gonna
be in
replicate that.
mainstream.
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna try to replicate that, and then you have all these images that just keep being thrown at you all the time. You turn TV on. You know, I can say that it has somewhat changed as far as I see sisters on TV sometime now with natural. I see more now with them with natural hair, but for the most part, you know, it's that Kim Kardashian look or whatever her name is. You
How
know
do
what I'm talking about? You
how do
know,
people like that? How do people like that get so much of our attention and energy? I mean, you
hmm,
know, because here's an example. I've often asked, you know, I have families that watch, like you say, the TV, and they watch the Dancing with the Stars and blah blah blah. And I've always wondered, you know, and it's big news when the Negroes are going on there to dance. And I always ask myself, well, how come TV shows like TV One, if it's a black owned company or African American
hmm,
owned company, whatever it is, how come they don't do a dance show and go head up against the other Dancing with the Stars? Because what I'm noticing in the mainstream is everybody is stealing your art form.
hmm,
I mean,
hmm.
They got Koreans doing break dancing.
Oh yeah.
So
Hmm.
everybody, while we're claiming that we're African, while we're claiming that we're Hebrew Israelite and Christian and all of these monikers, people are claiming our resources and our heritage.
They
That's
sure are.
sad. That's sad. That's
It
I
is.
I can't believe it. Area code 605-562-3140. We have a couple of callers on the line. Callers, anybody have any question or something they may want to bring to the table?
Hi, hello.
Yes.
This is Lashika. I'm Trina's daughter.
Hey, three.
Oh.
Mama, I had no idea you were doing this. I just logged on to Facebook and I saw it, and I've been listening. The call keeps dropping, but I hope it doesn't drop because I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
um, um, uh, so Trina, Professor Trina, um, you know, for all of your students, because I had an opportunity to meet a lot of your students when I came to
Mhm.
talk about entrepreneurship. And just for anybody who's listening to this show, I would just like to, you know, for you to recommend any books that you've recommended to your students to kind of, you know, pique their curiosity and to get them going because, you know, we talk about education and we talk about miseducation. You know, well, where can we start? Like, what are some books that you would recommend, or even some lectures? You know, I'm grateful for technology. You know, we've got YouTube. So, what do you recommend?
Mhm. I will probably have to refer you to the host because honestly, I am trying to find that for myself when it comes to AmeRicans. Um, because I mean, there's tons of things out there as far as African Americans, but for AmeRicans, that's what I'm searching for.
Well,
So that's
I,
that's a really good question. Maybe the host can help.
yeah, one of the things you want to do is go read a lot of the congressional records. Go read a lot of the court records. The you know, South Carolina in the southeast, South Carolina, when these colonies, you have to take yourself back to the time when you're doing these genealogy searches. You can't be thinking 2014, but you're going back to 1700. So you have to have maps nearby. But one of the things that they wrote down everything is in the congressional records, the court records, because the courts were filled with our people saying we ain't going for this, and you will,
Mm-hmm.
and they will describe the people in the courthouse. So that's one thing. Another thing you can do is go to the archives of your certain capitals. You may have books written on your people that you don't know about that they did back in the day. They may have they may have land deeds that just gone on unclaimed. So as far as books go, I'll say this about books. You have to remember about books too. Books is another person's interpretation of something. So I can read Dr. Ben's Africa, Mother of Western Civilization, but read all those pages and I didn't learn nothing the whole time because I'm not connected to that. He's just writing about a faraway land. How does that empower us? Another person that you might want to check out is Dr. Bobby Wright. Blueprint for Black Power. I'm not akin on using that word black, but I do know that this is how we identify ourselves. Before we became African Americans, we were black. Before we were black, we were Negro. Before we were Negro, we were colored. And it's like Trena was saying earlier, that's how they're changing us around so we won't know anything. They're burning documents. They're saying that wasn't there. Here's an example. When we were talking about Cherokee used to be called Cherokee, but they only tell you about the 5 civilized tribes: Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw. I don't know the other 2, but it's 5 civilized tribes. It used to be about 200 tribes, but those tribes got wiped out by them being called Negro. They just changed the identity. They just changed the identity of the people. So those tribes are wiped out, and they just give you 5, and then those 5, how it is now. Other people come and say, I'm Cherokee, but you notice all the Indians are white. But when you look at the Washington Redskins helmet, how come white? What that ain't you? But we don't claim it. We claiming that we're from 6,000 miles away somewhere. So while we're doing that, other people are coming over claiming our things. So a lot of stuff is not in books. A lot of stuff is your living history right now. The person I played before the show started, Dr. Bobby Wright, Menacide. You gotta get that. That's a must. A lot of times it's not books. A lot of times, because I don't think we learn too well reading books. I think ours is about visual. It's like Trena was saying the other night, that we learn different. We learn different. And we can't keep expecting it the way, because I don't do books. I do videos. Because, make a short video so people can see stuff, because that's what we do. We see stuff. And that's how we change. That's what gets us to move. So the courthouses, the archive is place where your people are from. Another place you might want to check is some of the churches. A lot of churches have records. So find the counties. Because the information is out there. Your folks just didn't leave because they knew what was happening to them. If you look at a lot of the pictures that we post, a lot of the females look sad. They look sad. And people are like, why they look? And the people say, why they look so sad? I'm like, you see the ring on their finger? They're being conquered. You see they're wearing white girl dresses now? They're being conquered. They're being taken away from the way of life that they only known.
Their hair is cut.
Their hair is cut. They're moving into European cities. They have to fit in with how these people do it. We walked away from that a lot of times. A lot of times we sold out. Most of the time we sold out because we thought that his rims, his Xboxes, his earrings, his ties, his TVs, we wanted that. We didn't want to produce for ourselves. That was the whole civil rights movement. Nothing came out of the civil rights movement but that. Now we like to pretend that a couple of people got some jobs, so we give away trillions of dollars of years to foreigners, and we stand up proud like we doing something. So no, I mean books. Barbara Sizemore, You can only read so much, to be honest. You really can't, because we've had the time to read. We've had the time to study. Now we must start building it. We must start building it. We're behind, and we still talking about the biggest bookstore in Los Angeles, SOM Books. Huge bookstore, huge. I learned a lot of the Afrocentric stuff in there. The last time I was in Los Angeles, I went to the store. The store was like a tumbleweed was blowing through it. I said, "What's up?" He said, "Man, nobody reading." He said, "The biggest thing we sell is the Zane sex books." I'm like, "You're kidding me. We don't read. We don't." You can walk in sisters' house. I tell brothers all the time, when you walk into a female's house, if she doesn't have a library, beat it. Serious. Because it's serious. What are you going to get? What are you going to get? And we got to be real about this. We being wiped out. I mean, the ignorance level in our communities is off the hook. And you just said it yourself tonight, Trena, with the university professor. Serve, and we love to serve, but we don't ever want to be. But we don't ever want to be served. So I think that's a problem. So, ma'am, I hope that answered your questions. YouTube has a lot of resources. Reading, it takes a lot of time and energy, and we have to build. We have to, because it's tearing down. It's coming down quickly on us, and we're not taking those stands. The brothers out there want to be girls. So what does that mean? What's the big? Seriously, what's the big thing with brothers wanting to be homosexual? Homosexual. Let's break this word down so we'll know. We're not talking about nobody. Homosexual means one. You can't do nothing with one person. You can't do nothing with one person. You can't do nothing with one person. And this is a big mental thing that's going on in the African American community today. Me, 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 me. We're the only ones who, we go to other people, we call them they, but we call ourselves me and I. This is the mental process we in. So these brothers want to be homosexual. Why do they want to be homosexual? Because they're not ready to defend. They're not ready to stand up and say something about all the craziness that are going on in our community. Those type of guys don't do that. They're eunuchs. That's what they're eunuchs. They're not to protect anybody, because they only think about themselves. They're not trying to save nobody. They're not trying to help anybody. They're trying to do what they do. And you see, it's going through our community. It's going through our community so much you would think nobody else is in that lifestyle, the way they pumping us with it. So when that's done, that's the next stage of that, is to go ahead and start killing them off. Study history. Study when they wipe out cultures. What do? History repeats itself. And they have us now where we cool with it. Oh, let anybody be. That's wiping out our population right there. We need to carry on our genetic code on this planet. This is not a joke. We'd be extinct in here. If it keeps going the way we're going now, where do you think we're going to be in 100 years? Seriously. These are the things that we have to think about. These are the things we have to think about. What if they came in now and said, you know what, we need this part of Atlanta. We need to get rid of these people. What'd happen? Who's going to come to the defense? And this is where we are today. So I think, Trena, that family thing is very important. Get with people, cousins that you may have broken away from, that you haven't seen in years. That family person that talked about, start connecting with those people. They have some stories, like you have some stories, but they don't know your stories because you live in LA and they live in Chicago. Or you live in LA and you live in New Jersey and you guys have just grown apart. Those are some stories that can help.
Okay.
So I would say the archives, you got to go to the state to do it, but maybe that's one thing the family can do at the next family reunion. Everybody go in these archives and everybody search for something. Things like that. You wouldn't believe what you would get out of that if more than one person is doing it. So that's what I would say doing. The conventional reading, I mean, it's cool, but we're going to have to start building something so that people can see that it can be done. Because most of the people, they just don't have this culture beats the so-called African American to the ground on a daily basis. So was there anything else, ma'am? Thank you for calling too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mama.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate your support. It's very means a lot to me.
One more question, daughter. Can I ask you a question?
Uh-oh.
No.
Absolutely. Sure.
Because this is for the listeners too, because it's important. When your mom came to that realization that this is not
Which
who we
one?
were.
Oh.
That this is not. I mean, but I think she can tell you how great that is in life. At least she's having them. When she came to that realization, how did you take it?
Which realization? Are you talking about leaving the university?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was thinking, I was a little confused because I learned so much while she was at the university, and because she would come home and talk about different authors I had never heard and talk about how excited the students were. I mean, I remember meeting some of her students, and they were just blown away. Even to this day, I meet some of her students, and she just left such a huge impression on them. So when she mentioned leaving, I was confused because I'm thinking, I thought she was in love with this. Like I thought this was it. But then I also saw something different, and I really understood. Once we sat and talked about it, I knew where she was coming from because I was in the same situation in corporate America for several years, and walked away. Decided, okay, because I felt like, literally, these are my words, these are my thoughts. I felt like I was being pimped, and I made up my mind. I said, well, if I'm going to be pimped, I'm going to pimp myself. Yes. And so I started my business, and I haven't looked back. I've thought about it. I've thought about throwing in the towel several times, but I completely understood. Was very supportive of her with the move, with the transition, with everything, and just excited for her because I know that by her not having that stress of the whole politics of the university, then I knew that would just give her even more freedom, like she said, to research, to even do more networking. And the other thing, I was even excited about her just not being in the South, being in a place where there are more people who are thinking like she's thinking and who can relate to the things that she is passionate about. So I was really excited, and I'm still excited about everything. I already told her I'm moving there with her. I'm moving.
Well, I think you guys sound like you guys would be a great team together. Well, ma'am, thank you for calling us tonight. Thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chica.
Okay, Trena, in closing, Trena, you talked about the African American being possessed by the culture. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, besides buying into this identity, just I said earlier, the materialism, the consumerism, buying into these fantasies that are on TV. I used to even tell my students, I said, I said, when Drake came out with that song, started at the bottom, and I'm like, when did he start at the bottom? I remember him as a kid on Disney or something. You know what I mean? So what rough life is he talking about? So it's all this fantasy.
Yes.
And we've bought into it. And the other thing is, and it's I'm not slandering women who have children at a young age or anything, because we have instances like that in my family as well. But the thing about it is that they're not aware, and so or they don't see the importance of trying to homeschool their children, or even something as simple as breastfeeding instead of giving them Similac and all those other soy things that are detrimental to our children. So they're unaware, and so they don't see anything wrong with just sending their child somewhere, and the person that's teaching them, in many cases, doesn't look like them, for one thing, and doesn't really have that child's best interest at heart. They're just there to get for a job, just to get a check, or to get their student loans wiped out because they're teachers. So I think that plays in it as well, is that the parents are not even conscious of what they're going on. It's what Dr. Amos Wilson calls, I think, the latent possession. When you don't even know, you don't know.
Wow.
Yeah? So I just think that all of those types of things are contributing, have contributed to the state that we're in now. But as you had said earlier, I mean, luckily we do have some really, they're bright young people, and some of them are beginning to ask questions. They just need, we need to do something. We need to help them.
Yes. Well, Miss Trena Armstrong, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. Your story to me just shows that whatever it is inside of you, whatever that power is, whatever that force, I'm sure is in all of us. And I'm sure if we can cultivate that power, that resolve, that strength, that common sense, that knowledge, that belief, that wisdom that we have in ourselves, if we can cultivate that amongst ourselves and put it and use it in a manner that would be beneficial for us, I think the world would be a better place for it. So I want to thank you tonight for joining us again for the second time. And get your daughter out there with you in California. I'm sure. Seriously, because like your daughter was saying, California is a progressive thinking state. If something isn't working, let's try something else. You will see a lot of that. And so what you're thinking, especially with the sisters back there, because that African story is dry and stale. And I think, what you're talking about and what you can teach, especially coming from that paradigm of teaching, like a book like your daughter asked for, a easy read book, or even even a DVD, even produce a DVD, a storytelling DVD. So, but I want to thank you, and you got to come back and talk to us and let us know how things are progressing.
Okay, I will do that. Thanks so much for having me. And I just want to say one quick thing that may help someone is to get away from your fear, because that blocks us too. That holds us into those jobs that you hate, that that's just stifling your spirit. Is that fear. So if you can let go of that,
Trena, if the people
help you.
Trena, if the people, any of the callers want to contact you, how could they contact you?
My email address is Trena, Trena, .Armstrong @yahoo.com. And they can They can reach me there.
Trena.armstrong@yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
Trena.armstrong@yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, Trena, well, thank you very much.
Okay. All
You
right.
have,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. You have listened to another edition of African Americans Ain't African. We try to bring speakers on who are experienced the reality of what's going on here in AmeRican and what's happening with our people. We aren't against anybody, but the so-called African American needs to connect to his ancestral homeland immediately, if not sooner. We see what's going on in our communities. We know death isn't who we are or what we're supposed to be about. So let's get up off of it and start doing something different. I'm your host, Buck Wylam, and we'll see you next week with another edition of African Americans Ain't African. Have a good weekend.